Ekam Aksharam Nirantaram Bhasate Swayam Likyate Katham Hridaya Kuhana Madhi Kevalam Brahmamotram Yam Maham Iti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati Hrudi Vishamanasa Swam Chimvata Machata Pavana Chalanodha Atmanishto Deham Jadam Aham Buddhirnatasyāstu Naham Tattata Bhavashikti Samaye Siddhartha Sadbhava Kuvam Bhavita Kuto Vadabhiya Drishta Manishta Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purnam Vibhav Swayam Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purnam Vibhav Swayam. Namo Ramana. In this the Thursday satsang from Ramanasramam Center for Learning, the South Bangalore Center. As usual, we'll be reading from Guru Vachaka Core, the string, the garland of verses containing the teachings of Bhagavan, composed by Ramanasramam. We'll be reading 2 verses, each reading followed by short meditation on meaning, that followed by 10-minute Atma Ucharam. And these 2 segments will be followed. If any questions are put on the chat by Akka or I trying to address the questions, and that will be followed by the chanting of Sri Ramanasramam by Vaibhavji and Pratnama, and the satsang will conclude with remarks from our President, Dr. Sharda. We begin today's satsang by reading a verse from Guru Vachaka Kovai. There are 3 segments in Guru Vachaka Kovai: investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and Anubhava, the experience of the truth. Today we are reading from Meditation on the Truth. The subsegment is Japa. The subsegment we are reading from is Japa. We are reading verse number 708. 708. Until the objects perceived are annihilated in the agent of perception, until the objects perceived are annihilated in the agent of perception, and until you know clearly, without a shadow of doubt, the solid truth of the self, what is the use of repeatedly exclaiming verbally, I am God, to no good purpose? Until the objects perceived are annihilated in the agent of perception, and until you know clearly, without a shadow of doubt, the solid truth of the self, what is the use of repeatedly exclaiming verbally, I am God, to no good purpose? This chapter is on Japa, but Japa should culminate in the elimination of all the objects in the agent, and there should be clear knowledge of the truth of the self, the solid truth of the self, without going on to abide as the solid truth of the self. One should not merely be content with doing Aham Brahmasmi, or in trying to shift the identification from Jiva to Ishvara by chanting Ishvara's name in Taraka Namas. Bhagavan is saying here that all the objects perceived have to be annihilated in the agent of perception. So implicitly, Bhagavan is giving us this upadesham that the objects are really not out there. The objects are in me, in the agent of perception. First, the agent of perception has to falsely arise. Then these objects which are present in me get projected outside. That is the teaching, and all these objects have to be annihilated in me, in the agent of perception. And when that annihilation of vasanas in me is complete, that is when one is able to abide in the solid truth of the self, the solid truth of Kevalam Brahmamatram Aham Iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Dhati. The journey of Japa, which is what we all normally do, the Japa which we do as I am not very comfortable being this Nandakumar, I want to become that Nandakumar. And from there, by God's grace, we come to the dhyana, the highest act of becoming, where the Guru gives us the Taraka Nama. Ramana himself comes into our life, and we hold on to him for dear life as Ramana, and many of the great devotees also devise many ideas, many supports, like calling everybody, like putting the names of all the devotees in our call list as Leela Ramana, as Uma Ramana, like that. we do that. But Bhagavan is saying here, do not be content with that. Do not be content with just calling yourself as that, as Aham Brahmasmi. But actively look at the vasanas inside. Whenever thought arises and pushes us into the objects and makes us feel that there is some happiness there is some essence there to be derived, one should carefully, diligently withdraw the attention from the object and erase the vasana by asking for whom is this thought. The attention returns to its source, and the object and the apparent attraction both fall away for want of pursuer. With repeated practice of eliminating the vasanas inside the agent itself vanishes without content. When all the contents in the agent are eliminated by Bhagavan's grace through continuous sadhana, adhyadharaya srottasasukam, when the vichara continues like that, then for complete elimination of vasanas, the I has no place to stand and soham spurti taya arunachala shiva. In that place where the I falsely and imaginatively arose and had contents in it, which it projected and appeared to get caught with, when all that is erased in vichara, then the solid truth of the self alone is, there is neither mamakara nor ahankara. Only the Atman, only the Kevalam Brahmamatram, Aham Niti Sakshat, Atmarupena Bharti, that alone exists. Ekam Aksharam Hrudinirantaram Bhasate Swayam, that alone is shining self-luminously without the agent or the contents within the agent or the projection onto the objective world. Till this truth is realized, one should not be merely content in saying, oh, Bhagavan has brought me here, Bhagavan is making me speak, Bhagavan is making me listen. One should not be merely content with this. One should go ahead and practice what Bhagavan is asking us to do, which is erasing of the contents within the false agent, the vasanas within the false agent. With Bhagavan's grace, which is nothing apart from that self, which is the self itself, let us sit in Atma Ucharam for the next 10 minutes. Vaibhavji, you are there?
Yes, sir.
You can set the time for us.
Yes, sir, I'll do that, sir.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. We continue reading the next verse. This is from the Experience of the Truth segment. The subsegment is the self is eternally free from defilement. The self is eternally free from defilement. The verse number is verse number 1085. One's real nature shines as the sun of true jnana, whose body exists as the expanse of consciousness. One's real nature shines as the sun of true jnana, and that sun's body, that jnana surya's body, whose body exists as the expanse of consciousness. In the experience of those who have realized their real nature, the darkness caused by veiling, which arose through regarding the fleshy body as I, never ever associated with them. In the experience of those who have realized their real nature, the darkness caused by veiling, which arose through regarding the fleshy body as I, never ever associated with them. Therefore, know that the darkness only exists for the blind ones who take the body to be I. Therefore, know that the darkness exists only for the blind ones who take the body to be I. One's real nature shines as the sun of true jnana, whose body exists as the expanse of consciousness. The self-luminous self is the Surya, is the Jnana Bhanu, the Jnana Surya, for whom the body is the whole expanse of consciousness, which shines as I only. Now, when Bhagavan is asked once, what about his state of Ajnana? What about his state of sadhana? Bhagavan says, I am only paraphrasing, I am not remembering the exact words. Bhagavan says to the effect that no such identification is there. That there was a phase of bondage, there was a phase of sadhana, and from sadhana, that causation and effect, the self was realized. Is not the anubhava in the jnana bhava. In the Swayam Prakasha Atma, there is no trace of the ego and its play. There is a complete vanishing of that side. We can get a clear indication of this when we understand about the karma, the theory of karma, and how the whole field is transcended by the non-doership, and how that whole field is transcended by identity with the Brahman. We can see that that whole field does not exist. How is that? Only when we identify with the karma, the cause and the effect, then all the causations and effects is what we deal in. And who caused which trouble? As soon as the pain is there, what was the cause for this? Let me go and remove that cause. Let me meditate. Let me go into hypnosis and see what was the particular cause for this pain. Let me erase that particular cause. Or let me go to the trace the root of the very family of experiences which cause this pain and remove that whole family of experiences. But all that is removed to Ishvara. The moment the doership is offered completely, the whole of the dialogue is completely shift planes. There is only talk of completion of surrender or not. That's all. There is no which caused this pain, how am I to particularly go to a particular point, get some money, get some this, contact this person, and then alleviate of the pain. The only dialogue we discuss is are we surrendered to Bhagavan? Are we able to put the load on the train's luggage compartment and not carry it on our head? That whole area of cause and effect is removed when we clearly understand this removal of doership. Similarly, the identity with Brahman, the identity with the no authority and no subservience mode. The ego neither comes to that I have to be subservient to this power or I have to take command of that. Neither of these identities is there, and the whole streams of both these sides are removed in the act of effacing the self, in the act of effacing the I. Then there is no thought that at one time these were the errors I committed, this was the identity I took, and now I am the self. In the thought-free state, there are no such thoughts about the past. There are no such thoughts about the ego and its play. There is only the thought-free state. There is only the ekam aksharam hridinirantaram bhasate swayam, which is completely free of all defilements. There is absolutely no defilement in that self. There is absolutely no feeling that at this point there was an error. At this moment in time I was bound and now I am free. Then one has to inquire, who has this thought? Who has this thought that at one point in time I was bound? At one point in time I made these errors. Then Atma Vichara came to me, and by practicing Atma Vichara I have come to the self. There is no coming to the self by practice of Atma Vichara. There is coming to the self because self is real, because self is there. The self is the Adhara. So even the thought that I practiced Atma Vichara from this year to this year is absolutely dropped in the self, because to practice and come to the self is indeed a defilement in the self. To abide in the self as nothing else exists is that pure perfect being as the Atman, Kevalam Brahma Matram. In Kevalam Brahma Matram, there is absolutely no defilement. There is absolutely no feeling of I did this sadhana, because of this person putting me through this, I came here. Those thoughts are not there. They are all erased in the Atmanubhava, in the thought-free state. In the thought-free state, one is ever the self. There is only the self. There is nothing else. There is no defilement to be seen. There is no defilement to be known. There is no defilement to be experienced. There is only the Atman, 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 Aham, Maham, Maham, Iti Sakshat, Atmarupirita. Till that state is realized to be our very nature, till that completely undefiled and completely pure Atman is realized to be the very nature of all. Indeed, there is no all in that. All is a defilement of the self. when one understands that the self alone is, and the self alone is the nature of oneself, that is when there is no feeling that there was a period of sadhana, there was a period of ego and its movement, and then now we have come. We realize the shlokam which Bhagavan says is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. He says that Ahamatma Gudakesha, when G. Subramanya, I think, it is he who says that I am unable to remember the whole of the Gita, not even the 42 verses that you have selected for us. Can you select one particular verse that Bhagavan gives this verse? Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarvabhuta Shayastita Ahamadischa Madhyamcha Bhutanam Antayocha. That means the Atma alone is there. There is no creation, there is no existence, and there is no destruction. There is only the Atma. Ahamatma Gudakesha, Sarvabhutasha, existing in the heart of all beings. I am verily there, beginning, middle, and end means there is no beginning, there is no middle, there is no end. There is only the Atma. There is only the undefiled, the Atma, the ever perfect self. And till that thought-free state, till that thought-free Atman is realized to be the only truth. And since it is the only truth, that is us. Till that is realized to be our very nature. One should practice Atma and efface the very act of practice into the Atman and be abiding as the undefiled, ever perfect self. Towards that, let us sit in Atma for 10 minutes. Vaibhavji, can you set the time for us?
Yes, sir, I'll do that, sir.
Bhagavate Shri Ramanasramam. I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to stand the Ashtotram.
Yes, sir. Namo Ramana. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्री रमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चेत् सुखवारिराशे यस्योमि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्दित्तावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोसिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोदीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसम्ब्रह्माय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ शूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातीताय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उदितनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ धूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयाळवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीषोडाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्धाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदिष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादरसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्थिनिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषज्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणस्तोत्रशतनाम पूजा समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवश स्तादात्म्यभावं गतः निर्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Thanks to Vibhuji and Pratnama. I request our President, Dr. Sharadaka, make the concluding remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. We find that in Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan has told us, Pujanam Japas Chintanam Kramat. But here he is telling us to drop the japa and abide as the self, which is ever pure, in which there can be no, not even a thought of something other than the self. Because when everything is the self, how can there be room for anything apart from that which is fully pure, ever pure as the self? The reason why Bhagavan is reminding me, I was thinking about what my mother would say. She would say, even if you cross, you see in Tamil there is a proverb of crossing the well. So she would say, Arakanaru tandinalum, Mukka kanaru tandinalum, kanathakulla venu. So she would say that if you don't make the quantum leap across, if you don't make one clear leap across, you will land up only inside the well. And we know about the great instance in Ramayana where that team of Vanaras, the most able team of Vanaras, was sent to the south, the most probable direction where Sita Devi was to be found. And they reached the sea. They had got all confirmation that she is across the sea. And they were on the shore of the sea. And the question was, who could go across? So many of the Vanaras, all of them are very strong. Repeatedly, we find that when Anjaneya Swami is talking to Sita Devi and she wonders, how will you be able to conquer this Ravana? He says, don't worry, I am only the simplest among all those. They are much stronger than me. They can fly for yojanas. They can do this, that. Each one of them is like that. Don't just feel worried that we are a Vanara Sainya. We're not ordinary monkeys. Yet, at that point, there is not a single one who is capable of going fully across. Angada says, I can go fully across, but I can't return. If I use my energy to cross, then I cannot return. So this thing is about returning also, because it is sahaja, you see. It is not about getting into the self and dropping over there. It is about being able to return and stabilize the anubhava, hold the anubhava stable in the naturalness of life itself. This is what Bhagavan teaches us. And that's why he gives in the Tripura Rahasya example of in the story given in Tripura Rahasya, where there is a king and a the queen is the teacher. Hemaleka is the teacher to Hemachuda, and as a matter of course of her guidance, and he gets to the point of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and she wakes him up, and she sort of gently teases and says, oh, how come, O king, you who were so interested in me, now you have lost interest and all that. Then he tells her, why did you wake me up? I was in bliss and you woke me up. Why did you disturb me? You who are fully aware of the bliss of that state, why did you disturb me? And she says to him, if your experience, whatever that experience is, if it can be altered by the mere movement of your eyelids, O king, of what use is that experience? That's what she says of that exalted state, it does not mean that state is not exalted. And ultimately, he goes on to abide in that state, in that story, very beautifully. And it is said by the abidance of the king and the queen in that state, all the beings in their country were all abiding in that state, including the parrots would only speak of the bliss of Atmanubhava. What does that mean? It means that once one is in that state steadily, the entire universe is not apart from that. That's what the second verse was telling us. There's nothing apart from that. So once one is established there, everything is that. So it's important not only to get there, but to, in a sense, get back and make the victory complete. And that is important. Ultimately, one must take the full quantum leap. One must leap beyond all the aspects of identification. One must be ready to give up everything and be in the self. Give up everything. This again reminds me of the movie, M.S. Subbulakshmi's movie Bhakta Meera. She leaves from her kingdom to go to Dwaraka, and she is taking with her just her tambura. And the director has envisioned a scene where she's alone in a sort of actually barren terrain. She's walking alone, and it starts raining. Heavily it starts raining, and there is lightning and thunder, and in a moment, that tambura drops from her hand and it breaks. And she turns and looks at it. And that is a poignant moment, because that is her companion, that is her music which has been singing on Krishna. Not that she stops after that, but then that is just symbolically used to denote the last attachment which she would have had. And then she looks at it and she moves on ahead from there to go to Dwaraka and be united with Sri Krishna. So the point is, Bhagavan is saying that we must push hard. The journey is in a way simple. It is only a simple step. One question and back to the self. Who am I? And back to the self. But the persistence to hold on to that question until every vasana is raised, and we all know that persistence comes only because of Bhagavan's grace. So to hold on to the understanding that Bhagavan's grace is helping us to get back, and that's why Bhagavan says in Appalam Pattu, Santatam Salipara Santoshamahave. It has to be a continuous effort, not in any way letting go until one is abiding in the self, not to get worried by failures, not to get elated by apparent success, but to keep holding on to that grace which has appeared in our lives in the form of the inquiry itself. As Nandakumarji often reminds us, that the grace has entered our lives in the form of the question, who am I? When Bhagavan tells us that this alone should be done, he is not excluding anything, but he is actually pointing out to us that in this, everything is included. We need not worry that anything has been excluded. Everything is included, because often he has told people who have done japa to the point of a japa also, many people have been told, and Nandakumarji has shared with us the experience of a lady who had come to our self-inquiry sessions also, that it is that which has brought you here, says Bhagavan. It is that which is bringing you here. So it is for us to hold to the inquiry to the best of our ability, remembering that that very best also is happening by grace, and grace only wants us to put in that effort so long as there is a sense of effort. Once that is lost, then grace is all. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ram.